Is America's government secular? By PragerU. Let's go!
It has become a dogma of progressive ideology that America is a secular nation.
Yes.
What do people mean by...
I don't know about dogma. It's just kind of explaining, like, the sky is blue. It's kind of like saying, yeah, the First Amendment is about freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, and the right to peacefully assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. It's just, it's right there. That's what it is.
What do people mean by secular?
Okay,
the argument goes this way. Since the Constitution establishes a strict separation of church and state, religion has no place in how the country is to be governed. Religion is a purely private matter, and therefore must be kept out of politics or public policy making.
Should be kept out of policy making, is what it means. Well, let's hear where he goes with this.
There is a problem with this claim, however. It's false. What the Constitution actually does when it comes to religion is first, ban religious tests of any sort for public office. That's in Article 6.
Yes.
And second, forbid the enactment of any law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Now, what do you think that means?
Those are the words of the First Amendment. The plain meaning of those words is that Congress was forbidden from, 1, establishing a national church on the model of the Church of England, and 2, attempting to disestablish or interfering with the established churches that existed in some of the states, in certain cases for decades after ratification of the First Amendment. But what about the separation of church and state?
It's a little more than that. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So this, where does he go with
this?
The
separation of church and state. That's in the Constitution too, isn't it?
This is a good dumb face to pause on. Not only does respecting an establishment of religion, like, mean that, that's what the Supreme Court has ruled it to mean. Law.cornell.edu. The First Amendment's Establishment Clause prohibits the government from making any law respecting an establishment of religion. This clause not only forbids the government from establishing an official religion, but also prohibits government actions that unduly favor one religion over another. It also prohibits the government from unduly preferring religion over non-religion or non-religion over religion. Yes, although some government action implicating religion is permissible and indeed unavoidable, it is not clear just how much the Establishment Clause tolerates. In the past, the Supreme Court has permitted religious invocations to open legislative session, public funds to be used for private religious school busing, I'm fine with that, and textbooks, university funds to be used to print and publish student religious groups' publications. Conversely, the court has ruled against some overtly religious displays at courthouses, state funding supplementing teacher salaries at religious schools, and some overly religious holiday decorations on public land. So, bulk, it comes down to a case-by-case basis. It doesn't mean no religion at all whatsoever in any possible way. It just means that your religious institution, for whatever reason, is not supposed to be favored over one or another. A big thing here, the court has ruled against overtly religious displays at courthouses. One big thing in addition to that is it's been realized that if we start allowing certain religious displays at courthouses, we have to allow every potential religious display at a courthouse. And this is not what a courthouse exists for. Courthouses have very specific tasks that are to be done there. They exist for a very specific purpose, and allowing just pretty much every single person to put their religious bullshit there just, well, kind of undermines the purpose of the courthouse. So they just say, nope, no religious displays at all. That's the easy way to get around it.
Well, no. Try as you might, you will not find the words separation of church and state in the Constitution.
This is correct.
The famous phrase comes from a letter that Thomas Jefferson...
It's kind of pedantic that's what you're going to do that, but okay.
...who was not at the Constitutional Convention, he was in France at the time, wrote years later...
Speaking of pedantic, Thomas Jefferson wrote this, but he was not at the Constitutional Convention. He was in France. Yeah, who gives a shit?
...to a Baptist community in Danbury, Connecticut. Jefferson, in his characteristically eloquent way, was simply trying to capture the spirit of the First Amendment prohibiting the establishment of a national religion.
Okay, so you're admitting here that the term separation of church and state is within the spirit of the First Amendment. Well, then what's the point of the video?
The Declaration of Independence was committed to an America where people were free to practice any faith or no faith as their consciences dictate. None of the founding fathers, including Jefferson, who was among the least religious of them, though not an atheist, ever entered.
Why would you say that?
Entertained the idea that there was to be a separation of religion from public life or from politics.
A little sleight of hand here. This is not the same thing as having a secular nation, a secular government. I see through you, Mr. George.
The secularist claim that our Constitution consigns religion to the purely private sphere is contradicted by the words and actions of the greatest figures in American history.
Oh God, and he shows Rushmore. This is not the claim. Also, the greatest figures in American history are us, I may add. That's me. I'm one of them, I'm among them, and so are you watching this video.
From Washington, who called for national days of prayer, to Lincoln, who proclaimed a national day of prayer and fasting.
Yeah, okay.
To Martin Luther King. King, of course, was the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, a Baptist clergyman.
Oh my God. You people and your Christian supremacy, you just gotta fucking lay it on. Jesus.
Fought racial segregation and discrimination in the most explicitly biblical terms.
Yeah, but the difference is MLK could make, while he was a Baptist and he was the Reverend, he could make arguments for these things without having to back them in Christianity. He could make arguments for these without using the Bible. Like, there are speeches where he does. Again, it's amazing conservatives keep trying to take MLK for their own purposes.
Secularist understanding of the separation of church and state. Martin Luther King violated that doctrine in almost everything he did.
Again, yeah, wow! So now Mr. George misrepresents whatever secularists claim, and then he misrepresents MLK. You're just tripping over your shoelaces? What's going on, George?
That doctrine in almost everything he did. And so did every president in American history.
So every president who was Christian violated this? What are you talking about? What did he say? I already forgot because it was just stupid.
Discrimination in the most explicitly biblical terms.
Okay, hold on. You should have probably given a quote there, George. That would have made it easier to cite. Okay, just so we're clear, when you Google MLK desegregation, this is the very first link that comes up. So, desegregation in the future. Address delivered at annual luncheon National Committee for Rural Schools. There are 3 basic reasons why segregation is evil. The first reason is that segregation inevitably makes for inequality. Ding, 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 ding! Martin Luther King is not a politician. You're right! You're right. Absolutely right. So it's a dumb argument for him to make anyway. But I know enough. I personally know enough about MLK to know he made plenty of arguments against these things, against segregation, against racism, without citing the Bible. I'm familiar enough with him to know that he makes those arguments. George, on the other hand, probably doesn't know that. He just thinks he was a reverend, so he says that. The first reason is that segregation inevitably makes for inequality. There was a time we attempted to live with segregation. There were those who felt we could live by a doctrine of separate but equal. And so back, blah, 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 Plessy versus Ferguson, established doctrine of separate equal land. But we all know what happened as a result of that doctrine. There was always a strict enforcement of the separate without the slightest intention to abide by the equal. And so, as a result of the old Plessy doctrine, we ended up being plunged across the abyss of exploitation where we experienced the bleakness of nagging injustice. Yep! Okay, also, one more thing. There are people I see, even on Twitter today, and sometimes on TikTok, talking about yeah, I want segregation to come back. Some of them are you used to seeing it from white supremacists, but sometimes you see it from what do they call them, black separatists? I'm sure a lot of them seem to deny being called that, but it's you're just bringing it back. Segregation inevitably makes for inequality. It's unavoidable. Why would you want that? Why would you want things to be worse? Anyway, let's move on here. Next, not only that, segregation is evil because it scars the soul of both the segregated and the segregator. And I've said all along, as we struggle, we must come to see we are not merely trying to help the Negro. Well, I said it. Twitch will not ban me for this. Segregation is as injurious to the white man as it is blah blah blah. The festering core of segregation debilitates the segregated as well as the segregator. It gives the segregated a false sense of inferiority, and it gives the segregator a false sense of superiority. It is equally damaging. That's why we must take a stand against segregation. Clip me all you want. This is actually a really good speech. I want to like save this in my bookmarks because this is really good. Third reason why segregation is evil. That's because it ends up depersonalizing the segregated. That's the end results of segregation. The segregated becomes merely a thing to be used and not a person to be respected. He is merely a depersonalized cog in a vast economic machine. And this is why segregation is utterly evil and utterly unchristian. Oh, we got something here. It constitutes an I-it relationship for the I-thou relationship. It relegates the segregated to the status of a thing rather than elevated to the status of a person. And so segregation will always be evil because it ends up depersonalizing the segregated. So he says it's unchristian, but the rest of the argument here isn't about, it's not about biblical terms. I think that's good enough. Let's carry on.
If you believe the secularist understanding of the separation of church and state,
yeah,
Martin Luther King violated that doctrine in almost everything he did.
Was also not a politician, so it doesn't fucking matter.
And so did every president in American history.
Most of them did not make laws legislating their religions, though, so...
Every single one invoked God in his inaugural address.
That's not the same. That's not the same, though. Okay, I'm not a Christian. I kind of hate how some Christian people debate, because they're, like, really slimy with it. Listen to what he says. He sets it up.
If you believe the secularist understanding of the separation of church and state, Martin Luther King violated that doctrine.
If you believe the secularist understanding of the separation of church and state, Martin Luther King violated it, so did every American. He doesn't do a great job saying what that was, though.
The Constitution consigns religion to the purely private sphere.
That's all he has to present it as, which is not the secularist interpretation. Like I said, that's pretty fucking slimy, because that's not the secularist interpretation. You can talk about God in your speeches. It's fine. You can pray. You can talk about having a day of prayer. What I don't like is trying to force people to go to church. I object to that. Now, hold on a second, because this is a thing that does happen. Here we go. This is in my state. This was several years ago.
Probably we should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday.
That was Senator Sylvia Allen yesterday talking about...
Woo! This is one of Arizona state senator.
the possibility of forcing people to attend church. But today she was walking away from those comments, literally.
You don't have any interest in talking about that?
Beta!
Appreciate it, folks.
Come back here and debate me.
I don't talk to you. Thank you.
Don't talk to me.
Nope.
What a beta fucking cock, dude.
However, it didn't take long for her to change her mind. About an hour after 3TV tried speaking to Allen, she took to the Senate floor defending her comments on religion.
Last night in a very late appropriation meeting, and we were all extremely tired.
What you got?
I made a remark about America's in a need of a moral rebirth.
Allen then said she couldn't understand why her remarks would be controversial.
To try to bring back this moral
Because it fucking violates the Bill of Rights that you swore an oath to uphold and protect, you maniac!
To our country, to turn our hearts back to good things. That is some sort of amazing thing for me to have said, and that would be offensive to people.
Allen believes the country is heading in the wrong direction, and to prove her point, she told a story about her youth.
I can remember, it wasn't until high school I understood there was anything like heroin, drugs. It just wasn't talked about in our society.
God.
It was a different time. People prayed, people went to church.
Regardless, her initial
This is a, no. All of that is fucking bullshit. All of it existed. Just because you were around people who prayed and went to church did not mean this stuff didn't exist. It did not mean that all of society reflected your experiences. And guess what? It still doesn't, and it never will. And accepting that and understanding that is, in my opinion, a very important part of being a public official. If you can't understand that things exist outside of your own realm of experience, then you really should not have this, like, any kind of power like this. Because holy crap, that is astounding.
It just wasn't talked about in our society. It was a different time. People prayed, people went to church.
We also used to throw rocks at the black people when they used our drinking fountains.
Regardless, her initial comments spread across social media. And later, she questioned why her idea of legally requiring church attendance would even be newsworthy.
I was chased across the foyer by Channel 3.
Yeah, because it's unconstitutional and un-American. And as far as I know, as far as I'm concerned, you're a goddamn traitor.
Church attendance would even be newsworthy.
I was chased across the foyer by Channel 3 news reporter when I said I did not have any comments.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's so good. All right, let's move on.
For Martin Luther King, as for so many other Americans, racial injustice was not only a violation of the Golden Rule, but first and foremost, a violation of the teaching of the book of Genesis that every human being is made in the image and likeness of God.
But like I said, he already... Bring up MLK again. Like I said, MLK was able to make arguments against these things without citing the Bible, which, yeah, you should be able to do if you want to, like, implement policy.
There are in the world truly secularist regimes. France, with its system of laïcité, religion must be exercised only in the...
France is actually pretty strict about it.
Private, not the public sphere, is one. So, of course, are the communist regimes of China, Cuba, and North Korea.
Nope! We don't consider North Korea one of these because it's like got its own thing. China, Cuba, these are not considered secularist regimes or secularist nations. These are considered atheist states, which is actually a fundamental difference. There's a difference between a secular state and an atheist state. Secular state means like we're not going to make any rules respecting religion, and an atheist state is like we are all atheists. Religion is not to be tolerated, which China has been. And Cuba, I'm not super familiar with. Soviet Union was. And North Korea is like a quasi weird cult thing going on. North Korea is a very unique nation.
Secularism is the official public philosophy.
Yeah, nope. Wow, dude. Who are you? That's actually a pretty embarrassing argument to make. Like, I would expect that from a high schooler who doesn't know any better. American legal scholar, public intellectual, serves at Princeton. That's really bad, though. Ivy League professor and he makes a mistake like that? That's actually really, really weird. Yeah, here we go. State atheism. There's a whole Wikipedia page on this. State atheism is the incorporation of positive atheism or non-theism into political regimes. It may also refer to large-scale secularization attempts by governments. It is a form of religion-state relationship that is usually ideologically linked to irreligion and the promotion of irreligion to some extent. There's generally like 3 categories for the relationship between governments and religion, or religion-state relationships. Secular state, that's the United States. Everyone can believe what they want, and the government doesn't make any rules about it. Okay, atheist state is when it's like, we're all atheists. Or not all atheists, but it, like, yeah, the description here, pretty much. And then there's a theocracy, which is like Saudi Arabia. Islam, for example, is the most common one. This is the official state religion. Some of these states that have a state theocracy with an official state religion also have bills of rights and constitutions that guarantee freedom of religion for people who live in the country. Yeah, Pakistan is an example of that. You may not have known that. That's not to say other people, will treat you nicely in these countries. Now we have here world map showing nations that formerly or currently practice state atheism. Most of the countries that practice state atheism are socialist states or previous socialist states, with some exceptions such as France during the French Revolution and Mexico during the Cristero War. That was a long time ago. Anyway, as we can see here, China, Vietnam, Cuba. North Korea is arguable.
And religion is, to the extent it is permitted at all, restricted to the private domain. But that is not an accurate description of the United States.
No, it's not.
At all.
Yeah, because those were atheist states and not secular states. Why would you not make... Oh my God. You're a professor at an Ivy League school?
And how could it be? Although we separate the institutions of religion from those of government, we do that not to make religion subservient to the state, but rather to protect it from the state. We are, after all...
It goes both ways. No. You mentioned it earlier in the video of the Church of England. It is not just to protect the religious institutions from the state. It is to protect the state from the religious institutions, because the Revolutionary War was a major part of this. The Church of England had like massive political power at the time. When we rebelled against England and the British Empire, part of that was, yeah, we don't want an institution like the Church of England dominating politics here. That's part of what we're fighting against.
We are, after all, a nation which, in its very founding document, acknowledges the Creator, God Himself.
Oh, no. Wow. Again, slippery evangelical. Fuck me, dude. It says Creator in the document. This was specifically chosen by Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, he specifically chose this because it's like, well, not everyone here and not everyone who I want to sign this document is a Christian. There are a lot of people I want to sign this document that will object if I write the Christian God to it, myself included. Might help to know a little bit about these people, George.
As the source of justice owed to all human beings.
Yeah, okay, no.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Self-evident. That's the underlined part. This is the operating principle, George.
That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Far from being secular...
There was a hell of a lot of debate that went on. The Declaration of Independence went through, like, several drafts because he wanted to make all these people sign it. And it's like, well, if we make it too Christian, a lot of these people won't sign it. If we have no reference to any of it, the other people won't sign it. Written in June 1776, Thomas Jefferson's draft of the Declaration of Independence included 86 changes later made by John Adams. It was not finished on the first draft, yeah. And the one that's in the National Archives is not the draft that was approved.
Far from being secularist, the American constitutional order holds that our fundamental rights are not privileges conferred by any merely human power.
But Creator could be interpreted to mean a wide range of things, George. Someone like me, Creator could be interpreted to be the universe itself.
They are rather gifts, endowments from God Himself.
Why didn't it say God Himself, George? If that were the case, it would have said God Himself. That's not what it said, because there was a lot of politicking going on. You're an Ivy League professor! I'm sorry I keep repeating that, but what the fuck? You should know this.
And they are unalienable. That is, they cannot legitimately be taken away by government or any other human authority.
Yeah, I buy that.
Precisely because they were not given to us by any human authority. Indeed, we couldn't give them away even if we wanted to.
It's also self-evident.
Why? Because they come from the hand of God. So is the claim that America...
No. Also, you didn't mention the Treaty of Tripoli. That's the one everyone mentions, or at least the atheists mention. The treaty is often cited in discussions regarding the role of religion in the United States government for a clause in Article 11 of the English language American version, which states that the government of the United States of America is not, in any sense, founded on the Christian religion. Now, this is because, at the time, early on, this was quite a while ago, at the time, there was concern among the government of Tripoli that, you know, we like what America's done. We support your revolution and your independence. However, we are concerned because we are predominantly Muslim. We're concerned you might be that your nation might be founded on a Christian religion, and you might implement a Christian theocracy. And we, as a Muslim majority nation, are kind of concerned about that. And the treaty was like a reassurance saying, no, we are not. There's more going on in it, don't make no mistake. That's the one thing that people talk about all these years later, because the rest of it's kind of, Yeah, first treaty between the United States and Tripoli to secure commercial shipping rights and protect American ships. That was the purpose of it.
So is the claim that America is a secular nation true? The answer should now be clear.
Yes. Yeah, actually, you did a really bad job substantiating that, even by your own terms. You had to, like, remake definitions of what secularism is, and you called atheist states secular states. That's not, the distinction is different. They are two entirely different distinctions between state and religion relationships. And then you had to redefine a secularist position about what the American government is, which I've never quite heard of anyone doing before.
I'm Robert George, McCormick Professor of Jurisprudence and Director of the James Madison Program at Princeton University for Prager University.
I hope all the students drop your class, and I hope they get refunds, because, wow, if your class is like this PragerU video, like, they are not getting their money's worth. Thank you to last month's patron backers. ASU Asian Woman, oh, you think you're so clever! Benjamin Kessler, Dios, Ian Diaby, Here Comes the Rat, James Paul, Jari Palamo, Joe Nuts, Lionel, Mellow Cheddar, Suzanne Hendrickson, and Xylorp.